first to movement within synergy. The next few are movement combining synergies, okay? So in this case, what we're asked, so in the movement within synergy, we saw flexion and we saw extension, those kind of hallmark flexion and extension synergies. Can the patient move within those synergistic activations? Here we're looking at, there is some synergistic activation, but then there are other components of the movement that break the synergy, okay? And are they able to do that? So the first one is hand to lumbar spine. So for this one, and we'll go on this side first, they're starting with their hand resting in their lap, and we're asking them to reach back, and I usually say something like, reach back toward your belt loop back there, okay? Or for ladies, reach back like you're gonna buckle your bra. Good. Faultless on that good side. Okay, so now I'm gonna check the passive range. Oh, she's got it. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, she's good to go. All right, you're fine. Deal with it. No. Okay, so go ahead, and now we're gonna watch her. Now for this one, I'm gonna turn you a little bit. Because for this one, what we're looking at is whether or not she can approach or pass the ASIS, okay? So a 0 would be that she can't even get to her ASIS. A 1 would be that she passes the ASIS, but doesn't get all the way back. And the 2 would be faultlessly, that she clears the ASIS and she can extend all the way back, okay? Yeah, I'd say she gets there. She just can't get all the way back, okay? Good, all right? I'm gonna start to go a little faster. Okay, the next one would be shoulder flexion to 90 and elbow at 0. So show me what that looks like. Shoulder flexion to 90, elbow at 0. Good. Sometimes this can get confusing because we're going to put shoulder at 0 and elbow at 90 in a minute. So I just want to make sure you got that right. So for this one, you are actively asking her to do this movement. Okay. Now the synergy part of this is the shoulder flexion, but the elbow extension is the movement out of synergy. Okay. So for this one, she's going to start. So for this one, you're going to move this arm like this. Okay. So can you do it with this side? Very typical movement, okay? So what you're looking for here is, can she maintain that straight elbow while she's flexing her shoulder, all right? So the 0 is the arm is immediately abducted or elbow flexes at the start of the motion, okay? So she can't do that straight plane movement if she's abducting and that shoulder is moving. Because remember, that cortico-reticular tract, right, that can inhibit that reticular tract activity, but it can't if that cortex is blown out, right, which is what happens in stroke. So if that's the case and there's a lot of edema there still and that recovery hasn't taken place, what you'll see is that the synergistic activation will take place just to get any sort of movement, okay? So we're seeing, can she break that? And it doesn't look like she can. So is the arm immediately abducted or elbow flex? That's a 0. Abduction or elbow flexion occurring in the later phases of the motion. So that might be something like she starts off here and then ends up like this, okay? That would be a 1, or 2 would be faultless. So what might we score her at this point? 0. A 0, okay, good. You're doing fabulous. Your arm's gonna be so sore by the end of this.
My arm is a 0.
0.
Would you want to put her into the extension? You just want to let her do it?
You can have the arm resting on lap, yeah. So you can put her into that extension first, but what you don't want to do is raise her up here and then go, because you want to see the elevation. You want to see her elevate. All right, the next one is pronation and supination of the forearm, elbow at 90 and shoulder at 0. Show me what that looks like. Elbow at 90, shoulder at 0. Yes, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Elbow at 90, shoulder at 0. I'm confusing myself. Okay, this one you're going to start with the person in supination, and you're asking them to then do this motion, supination, pronation. Okay. All right. What you're looking for, do it with your good side. Yep. Now do it this side. What you're looking for is for that elbow to stay in the right spot, okay? Because a lot of times what you'll see with this one is this. They're gonna try to move their shoulder. So it's okay if you wanna kind of keep their elbow at this location, because all of the choices say that the elbow needs to needs to stay at the side, okay? So if they can't even get into, sorry.
Okay, relax.
So hand is gonna start here and then they're gonna move here. If they can't even get to that position, then they're gonna be a 0. Once they're there, you can give them a tiny little cue, okay? But let's say that they start with this. That would automatically be a 0 because they can't even get their elbow to their side, okay? Okay, so those are the movement combining synergy items. Then we have movement out of synergy, okay? So this is implying that the movement is not synergistically activated at all and they're able to move in a fractionated way. So shoulder abduction to 90 and elbow at 0, okay? With the forearm pronated. So you're asking them to have their arm at their side and they're moving like this, okay? Good, can you do that with checking passive range? Now you're doing it. Oh boy, look at that trunk. Lots of substitution. Okay, so you're looking at the 0, 1, and 2 again, and you're looking for that elbow flexion. You're looking at whether or not basically that elbow can stay extended or not, okay, during that movement. So if it doesn't stay extended, then you're marking them down. The next one is shoulder flexion from 90 to 80. Again, elbows at 0, and the forearm is at the mid position, okay, so somewhere between. So again, they're starting with their arm in their lap, and you're asking them to flex the shoulder above 90 degrees with the elbow extended. So there's a theme here, right? We're looking at, can they keep that extension? So let's try that one. So you're gonna do this.
Check passive first.
Yes, always. I'm just not doing it now because of time. But yes, always check passive first. Okay, so again, we're seeing kind of a similar pattern where we see the elbow is flexing. Okay, and you guys can mess a little bit more with the scoring system. I'm going to go a little faster for time purposes. Are you stretching or question? No, you're trying to move it. Okay, good. Okay, next one is pronation, supination of the forearm with the elbow at 0 and the shoulder at 30 to 90 degrees of flexion. So we're in kind of this range here. Okay, so we're going to ask them to elevate, and can they pronate and supinate there? Okay, I'll try with that side. Good. She's doing a very nice job of emulating. Yeah. And you know, when you're practicing in the stations, I'm going to do the Fugl Meyer station. Lucky me. So I will be your patient if you guys want me to, or I'll show you how the movement might look. Okay, so that was movement out of synergy. The next item is item 6, normal reflexes. And you might say, hey, we already checked reflexes, what the heck? Remember, we checked reflexes for the presence of. Was there a reflex, was there not? This item is only done if the patient scored in the previous section, which was movement out of synergy, a perfect score. If not, then they're good at 0, okay? If she scored a perfect score on the last section, which was the movement out of synergy, I'm going to look at the quality of the reflexes. So I'm going to do my bicep again, bless you, my tricep again, and I'm also going to do a finger flexor. So I'm going to ask her to flex as best she can, and I want you to hold it. And I'm going to give her a quick stretch, okay? And what I'm looking for, let's do it again, hold it, okay? When I give her that quick stretch, I want to see if there's some sort of a response there, and there is. There's like a clonic response happening there, okay? And that's indicative of a hyperactive response. And you're looking at that scoring saying at least 2 to 3 of the phasic reflexes. So you're looking at all 3 of those reflexes, how many of them are hyperactive, and you're scoring on that Likert scale. But remember, this is a 0 for her because she wasn't normal on the last section. So really, I didn't need to test her at all for this one. Are you with me, guys? Yeah. I know this is long, and I'm sorry. Okay, the next one is the wrist specifically. So for the wrist, what we're looking at is so the elbow's at 90 and the shoulder's at 0, so this position. And we're looking at whether or not she's able, and it says on the instruction sheet, to dorsiflex the wrist. Dorsiflexion is wrist extension, okay? So we're looking, I know, go figure. So we're looking at,
think feet. Okay.
Right, same kind of thing. So we're looking at whether or not the patient can actively move 15 degrees. How much is 15 degrees? It is not a lot of movement, guys, okay? So don't make your patient have to move like, 70 to 90. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for 15 degrees of active movement. So can you lift up your hand this way? And they don't have to keep it fisted. It can be just slightly flexed. So there's no tension on the tendons. Good, okay. Now you're gonna do it one more time, up to 15. Okay, she can't even really get up to 15, so I would give her a 0. But if she can get to 15, I'm going to then ask her to hold it, and I'm gonna give her resistance, because I'm looking at stability. It's mild resistance here, guys. In another section, we'll give more resistance.